Hey guys, Nate here. I'm just on a little vacation here in the Seattle area with visiting family in town for the long weekend, just for a wedding. And I thought I'd shoot out a video here to the interwebs as I'm sitting on my parents' front porch regarding a question I got on my channel, a private message sent by a guy named Michael, and I wanted to address it. I thought, yeah, I'll do a video on it. I also responded to him, but thought this would make a good video too. And the video is basically on what to do if you're feeling overwhelmed, where to start with an all-new group of players. And I'll just read his question here. He said, "Hi Nate, wanted to say thank you for your channel. It's been hugely informative. A few of my friends and I, ages 26 to 30, are wanting to get into D&D for the first time ever. We're really excited to start, but also really overwhelmed. We have the books for 5e and are starting to dive into those, but it still feels daunting. Do you have any advice for an all-noob crew, including DM? Which of your videos would you suggest we watch first, or that would give us a well-rounded idea of what to do for our first campaign? Thanks again for the channel and happy D&Ding." Well, thank you, Michael. And thanks for the message. I appreciate it. And yeah, that's one that I don't honestly have a good video that I can point to and say, this will give you a good idea. So that's why I'm doing a video. And I also hope that at some point I can get into some more DMing basics videos. I don't really have much in that line right now. But I thought it's definitely worth addressing. So I would say a couple things. First off, look into, if you're really not feeling comfortable, possibly doing a pre-written adventure. There are a couple options you could go with this. One would be buying the starter set, which is like 12 something on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description below. And that has a really good kind of mini campaign. It's called the Lost Mine of Phandelver, and it's gotten pretty good reviews. I haven't run much of it myself, just a little bit. And yeah, it's just a solid starter adventure, mini campaign again for a group, and it's targeted to new players. So I think that would really be a good place to start. In addition, there are also some really good pre-written stuff out there that you can get either for free if you just search like 5th edition free adventures or 5th edition free modules. I don't know what you would search for, but I've found some stuff out there like that, and I've pointed people to that sort of thing before, and I've seen that there is some of that out there. Or you can get stuff really inexpensively. My good friends at Absolute Tabletop, absolutetabletop.com, have some pre-written stuff that I haven't run myself, but it looks really cool. It's been well received, and so you can go check some of that out too. Just go to absolutetabletop.com and look for some of their adventures. I think there's like Sewers Under Sandwall, Misty Meadows. I can't remember, but there's more too. Or on drivethrurpg.com, you can find some pretty cheap modules and adventures. Just make sure, or on the DM's Guild too, the official Wizards of the Coast one. Just make sure you're getting some that have some good reviews, I would say. Now, all that said, I don't want to discourage you from trying to do it yourself, because I think you can do it. And that's honestly what I would recommend trying, is trying to do it yourself. Personally, when it was my first time, I wanted a pre-written adventure just to give me something to get a feel for how do other people do this here. Because I just had very little context or concept of what a game session was like. So that's what I did. I had the Pathfinder beginner box, then I ended up getting the Rise of the Rune Lords adventure module, which I even though I haven't hardly run any of it, I still like that I have it, and it's got some really cool stuff in it. But I don't want to discourage you again from trying to do it yourself. So if you're going to try to do it yourself, I would say, yeah, my how to play D&D videos might give you some good ideas on what sorts of things adventurers do in a game session, what sorts of obstacles you might think about including. However, I would say, you want to think about a quest. I would say try to stick to a fairly simple dungeon crawl for your first session. And don't think of the whole campaign. Try to think of just this first session. And then a campaign can grow from that. But think about just a first adventure, a fun dungeon crawl, some fun combat and other, other challenging encounters, some skill tests, jumping across a ravine, strength tests, pushing something open. Maybe it takes more than one person to do. other things like that, maybe some sneaking, some ways to meet things head on, but also some ways around combat maybe, just to give players some options. And you might want to think of a story you want to tell, right? Is there a particular story? Keep it fairly simple, but is there going to be maybe a big reveal at the end that helps kind of flesh out a narrative, and maybe then leads into further adventures and gets their appetites wet for more. So those are all things that I would think about. In terms of encounters, planning for encounters, generally a good rule of thumb is you want to, if you have a party of 4 adventurers who are level 1, a challenge rating, a CR in the monster manual or in the free basic rules of 1 is going to be appropriate. That's a general rule of thumb. So you might find that they can beat a CR2. You might find that they can do a lot more, or maybe it's going to be harder, and you need to adjust a little bit. So, don't be afraid of adjusting things on the fly. That's another thing. In terms of, is your adventure running too long? Well, cut it short. Cut out something you were planning to do, because you don't want to bore them to death and have this 6-hour epic, right? When it's their first time, try to keep it to 2.5, 3 hours, I would say. But you gotta kind of get the feel for how is your group doing? Are they enjoying it? Are they having a hard time with it, etc.? The other thing I would say is, if you want to, sorry, door creaking made me think that someone is coming, but nope, it's just the ghost. I gotta close that door; it's bugging me. There we go. Now I pissed off the ghost. That's gonna go well. So again, in general, if you have a party of 4 level 1 adventurers, a monster of CR1 is going to be appropriate, or 4 CR1 quarter monsters. There's more details on the whole XP budget method. There are actually some really good calculators out there too that can help you with that. I'll put a link to one in the description below. I've found it really helpful myself, but don't be afraid to kind of wing it there. Oh yeah, and what I was talking about, got distracted. Don't be afraid to adjust. If you find it's going too long, if things are too easy, ramp up the challenge. Maybe some environmental hazard happens, a rock slide, or more guys show up, the backup, right? Or if it's too hard, maybe make something work in the party's favor. There we go. So don't be afraid to adjust things on the fly a little bit. But yeah, I think you can do it. You can plan an adventure. Just try to think of a fun sort of adventure, a fun story to tell, some sort of obstacle, something that needs to be done. You might also want to think about your party already having known each other in the character creation phase. You might want to think, why would you all be together in the first place? Or you might want to find some way of bringing them together right in a moment. Maybe they're all at a celebration, or they're all in a tavern, the trope there, or they're all wherever, and something happens, and these 4 or 5 people are the ones who happen to take action and fight, and that bonds them together. So those are other things you can think about for running a first session, but you can do it. And once you do one, yeah, it's going to be rocky. You will learn so much in those first few sessions. You will learn more in those first few sessions than you learn much further on in many other sessions, I would say, because they're a learning experience. And I learned things that, man, I messed up. I wish I hadn't done that. One of my biggest mistakes was just saying, like, I don't know the rule for that, so no, just don't do that. When really I should have just made up a skill check that fit most appropriately for what the player wanted to do. I really stifled my players' creativity. When I was trying to encourage it, I ended up stifling it. So anyway, you'll learn a ton. You'll have a good time. And if you have advice on this, if you're an experienced D&D player, what's your best advice for this guy? Down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and so would Michael and many, many others. So leave that down below. If you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you're subscribed for more great content, and hope to see you back in my home state of Michigan in a little while for the next video. Everybody take care.